The Wizard of Oz is not just a Hollywood classic, it is a gateway to a world of magic, where dreams soar high and imagination knows no bounds. For generations, this film has left an indelible mark on audiences, delivering wonder, warmth, and profound life lessons. However, behind the dazzling brilliance of the silver screen lies a hidden world of dark secrets and heartbreaking tragedies that few truly know about. The behind-the-scenes reality of The Wizard of Oz was far from the sparkling ruby slippers of Dorothy. Instead, it was a haunting series of horrifying accidents, both physical and emotional torment that the cast endured. Some paid an unimaginable price to bring this masterpiece to life. From terrifying fires on set to toxic makeup that ate away at the actors' skin, mysterious accidents, and the sudden, unexplained deaths of several cast members, an eerie shadow looms over the film's legacy. The journey to Oz in the movie was beautiful and enchanting, but for those who brought it to life, it was a path paved with blood, tears, and mysteries that may never be solved. Could it be that the magical world of The Wizard of Oz consumed the very souls of those who created it? Let's uncover the chilling stories and sinister truths hidden behind this cinematic masterpiece. Judy Garland was born in 1922, a fragile soul with a voice that could shake the heavens. As Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, she captured the hearts of millions with her wistful rendition of Over the Rainbow, yet her own rainbow was always just out of reach. The bright lights of Hollywood were a cruel master, forcing her into a childhood of endless rehearsals, amphetamines to stay thin, barbiturates to sleep, and a relentless cycle of emotional and physical exhaustion. Her mother, Ethel Gum, was her first oppressor, pushing her into show business with little regard for her well-being, but the studio executives at MGM were no less ruthless. Marriage was no sanctuary for Judy. 5 husbands came and went, each promising love, each leaving her emptier than before. With Vincente Minnelli, she had a daughter, Liza Minnelli, who would inherit both her talent and her demons. As years passed, the pressures crushed her, leaving her body frail and her spirit broken. In 1969, in a lonely London bathroom, she was found dead from an overdose of barbiturates. At just 47, the girl who dreamed of a place where troubles melt like lemon drops found herself lost in the darkness forever. Pat Walsh was born in 1900, a man whose life was defined by his size. Standing at just over 3 feet tall, he was destined for a career on the fringes of entertainment. As Nico, the silent and sinister leader of the Winged Monkeys in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, he was nearly unrecognizable beneath heavy makeup and a costume that turned him into a terrifying, otherworldly creature. Before Oz, he had spent years in vaudeville and the circus, playing animals, imps, and other curiosities that audiences paid to gawk at. Hollywood offered him little more than the same. He was never the lead, never the hero, always a spectacle. Unlike many of his co-stars, he never married, and there is no record of any great loves in his life. As the years passed, the roles dried up, and he faded into obscurity, spending his final days in a nursing home. He died in 1991, a forgotten footnote in Hollywood history, his name lost to time while his eerie, silent performance as Nico continued to haunt the dreams of children. Frank Morgan, born in 1890, was a man of many faces, quite literally. In The Wizard of Oz, he played not just Professor Marvel but also the wizard himself, a fraudulent yet strangely endearing charlatan whose deception was, in the end, a kind of kindness. It was fitting, perhaps, for a man who spent his career slipping into different identities, never quite revealing his true self. Unlike many of his co-stars, Morgan was spared the cruelest fates of Hollywood's underbelly, but tragedy found him nonetheless. His marriage to Alma Muller lasted until his death, but his personal struggles remained his own. Alcohol was a familiar companion, though never publicly acknowledged as a demon. In 1949, just as he was still thriving in Hollywood, a heart attack took him suddenly, silencing his unmistakable, warm voice forever. He left behind a legacy of wit, charm, and a reminder that even the greatest wizards are, in the end, just men behind a curtain. Clara Blandick was born in 1876, a woman whose greatest role was that of a kindly matriarch, yet whose own life ended in unimaginable loneliness. As Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, she was Dorothy's anchor to the real world, a figure of warmth and quiet strength. But her real-life story was anything but comforting. She had no children, no husband, only a career spent playing motherly figures to other people's children. As Hollywood moved on without her, age brought her nothing but suffering. Her eyesight failed, arthritis twisted her once capable hands, and the pain became unbearable. In 1962, she made a final, tragic decision. Dressing in her finest robe, she arranged her room carefully before swallowing a lethal dose of sleeping pills and suffocating herself with a plastic bag. Her final note was heartbreaking: "I am now about to make the great adventure." In death, as in life, she was alone, just another aging actress discarded by the industry she had given everything to. Ray Bolger was born in 1904, a man whose body seemed made of rubber and whose destiny was to dance. As Hunk, the Kansas farmhand, and the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, he twirled and tumbled with an effortless grace that masked the grueling physicality of his role. Behind the whimsical charm, however, lay a life of relentless ambition and deep insecurities. He spent decades on stage and screen, desperate to avoid being typecast, but no matter what he did, he remained the Scarecrow in the public eye. His marriage to Gwendolyn Ricard was long but childless, and though they stayed together until his death, little is known about the private struggles within their home. Bolger lived long enough to see his legacy celebrated, but time was unkind. In 1987, Parkinson's disease tightened its grip on his once limber frame, robbing him of the movement that had defined his existence. He passed away quietly, his body still at last, but forever remembered as the man who wished for a brain yet had a heart full of joy. Terry was born in 1933, a tiny creature with a larger-than-life legacy. As Toto in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, she was more than just a pet, she was Dorothy's most loyal companion, the one who never doubted, never abandoned, never left her side. Yet behind the scenes, the life of Hollywood's most famous dog was not all wagging tails and warm laps. Trained by Carl Spitz, Terry was subjected to rigorous discipline, expected to hit her marks with the same precision as her human co-stars. During filming, a Winky soldier accidentally stepped on her, breaking her foot and forcing a temporary replacement to take her place. Though she recovered, the demands of show business never relented. She appeared in over a dozen films, always playing variations of herself, never free from the shadow of her most famous role. She spent her final years at Spitz's kennel, where she died in 1945 at the age of 11. Her grave was lost when the land was redeveloped, a cruel fate for the little dog who had followed the yellow brick road into history. Bert Lahr was born in 1895, a comedian who masked his fears with laughter. His role as Zeke, the timid farmhand, and the cowardly lion in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, made him a legend, but the courage he played on screen often eluded him in real life. Known for his anxious nature, he was plagued by insecurity and a need for constant reassurance. His first marriage to Mercedes Del Pino ended in heartbreak, leaving him a single father to his son, Herbert. Years later, he married Mildred Schroeder, and they had a daughter, Jane, but happiness was fleeting. Hollywood never quite knew what to do with him, too cartoonish for drama, too theatrical for film, so he found his best work on Broadway, where his larger-than-life presence could roam free. In 1967, while filming The Night They Raided Minsky's, he suffered a sudden and fatal bout of pneumonia. Found in a New York hotel room, he had died in solitude, a man who made the world laugh but struggled to find peace within himself. The Singer Midgets were not a single person but an ensemble, a collection of performers drawn together by their stature and confined by it for their entire lives. Cast as the Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, they brought to life the whimsical inhabitants of Munchkinland, their high-pitched voices and synchronized movements creating a surreal spectacle. Yet their time on set was far from magical. Paid a fraction of what their taller co-stars earned, they were often treated as little more than a novelty, herded together both on and off screen. Many had come from touring vaudeville acts, sideshows, or the circus, where they were displayed as curiosities rather than performers. Their lives were often marked by exploitation, loneliness, and struggles for dignity in an industry that saw them as nothing more than comedic props. Some, like Billy Barty, managed to carve out longer careers, but for many, The Wizard of Oz was both their greatest triumph and their lasting curse. One by one, they faded into obscurity, their names forgotten even as their roles lived on in one of the most beloved films of all time. Jack Haley was born in 1897, a man whose soft eyes and warm voice belied the physical torment he endured in the name of entertainment. As Hickory, the kindly farmhand, and the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, he was a figure of loyalty and heart, though the role very nearly killed him. He was not the studio's first choice. Buddy Ebsen had originally been cast, only to be hospitalized when the aluminum powder in the makeup poisoned his lungs. Haley was brought in as a replacement, but even the revised makeup caused a severe eye infection that left him in agony. His career, spanning vaudeville, radio, and film, was steady, but never spectacular. He was forever in the background, the sidekick, the reliable second lead. His marriage to Florence McFadden endured, and together they had a son, Jack Haley Jr., who later married Liza Minnelli, tying the Haley family to the tragic Garland legacy. In 1979, after decades spent largely out of the limelight, Haley suffered a heart attack and passed away at 81. Though he played the man searching for a heart, in the end, it was his own heart that betrayed him. Billie Burke was born in 1884, a woman who spent her life wrapped in lace and illusion. As Glinda the Good Witch in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, she floated onto the screen in a pink gown and sparkling crown, a vision of kindness and wisdom. Yet her real life was not so weightless. She had been the devoted wife of Florenz Ziegfeld Jr., the legendary showman whose extravagance built an empire but left her in financial ruin when he died in 1932. Forced back into acting to survive, Burke became the quintessential dithering socialite in film, a far cry from the ethereal Glinda. Though she had one daughter, Patricia, motherhood was secondary to the relentless demands of career and survival. As age crept in, Hollywood left her behind, and she faded into a quiet retirement. In 1970, she suffered a stroke, and the world lost its good witch. She was 85, her magic spent, her glow dimmed, yet forever frozen in time as the woman who told Dorothy that she had the power to go home all along. Margaret Hamilton was born in 1902, a former schoolteacher who became Hollywood's most terrifying villain. As Miss Gulch, the bitter, bicycle-riding menace, and the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, she delivered a performance so chilling that generations of children cowered in fear. Yet off-screen, she was the opposite, gentle, kind, and deeply devoted to her son, Hamilton Meserve, whom she raised alone after a brief, failed marriage to Paul Meserve. The green makeup that made her so infamous was a curse in itself, highly toxic. It left her with painful burns when a special effects explosion went wrong, forcing her to recover in agony while still expected to perform. Despite her unforgettable role, she never escaped its shadow. Typecast as witches and crones, she struggled to find work that allowed her to be anything else. In her later years, she found solace in children's television and advocacy, using her voice not to cackle, but to educate. In 1985, she passed away in her sleep after suffering a heart attack, alone but at peace, having finally left the Wicked Witch behind. Charlie Grapewin was born in 1869, a relic of another era, a man whose long life stretched from the age of horse-drawn carriages to the golden age of Hollywood. As Uncle Henry in The Wizard of Oz, 1939, he was the quiet, unassuming farmer, overshadowed by his wife's sharp tongue but a steady presence in Dorothy's life. Before Oz, he had been a circus performer, a playwright, and a stage actor, wandering through life with the same weathered resilience he brought to the screen. He married Anna Chance, and though they remained together until her death, there is little record of great love or grand romance, only the steady companionship of two people who had seen too much of the world to expect more from it. His career, which included roles in The Grapes of Wrath, 1940, and Tobacco Road, 1941, made him a familiar face, but never a star. In 1956, at the age of 86, he died quietly in California, his name fading into history, much like Uncle Henry himself, a man present in the story, yet always on the periphery. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from The Wizard of Oz, and who do you remember the most? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to watch the latest videos.